Hello friend, this is me, your host. Welcome back. I hope you all are well and doing great. So today I'm back another videos to give review on another books. These three of the books which we're going to see today are all about crime, thrilling and mystical stories. So the first one which we're going to see today is What She Saw. What She Saw by Diane Saxon. Introduction. The mind as a maze of shadows. Diane Saxon's What She Saw is more than a psychological thriller. It is a literary exploration of memory, trauma, and the unsteady line between truth and illusion. Through the story of a woman who wakes up from a car crash with no recollection of her identity. Saxon crafts a haunting and emotional narrative that grips readers from the first paragraph and refuses to let go until the final page. The novel opens with chaos and confusion. The protagonist, later identified as Evie, awakens amidst wreckage, pain, and uncertainty. Her sense of disorientation is immediately contagious. The reader is drawn into her fractured world where nothing feels real and no one can be trusted. This sense of psychological distortion is the beating heart of the book. Saxon's brilliance lies not only in her intricate plotting but in her sensitivity to the human connection. She understands that memory is more than recollection, it is identity itself. To lose one's memories is to lose one's sense of self, to drift. To drift unmoored in a world that no longer makes sense. In What She Saw, Saxon turns this terrifying premise into a study of the human mind's resilience and vulnerability. The title What She Saw suggests both revelation and repression. What did Evie see before her accident? Why is someone so desperate to keep her from remembering it? From remembering it The questions propel the narrative forward while beneath them runs a quieter current. The question of who Evie truly is. The question of who Evie truly is. And whether rediscovering the past will heal her or destroy her. Plot summary: The Woman Without a Past. The story begins in the aftermath of a catastrophic car crash. A woman wakes up in a hospital, bruised, terrified, and unable to remember her own name. The police call her the woman from the wreck. Eventually, though fragments of medical records and the appearance of a distraught man who claims to be her husband, she learns her name, Evie. But that knowledge brings her no comfort. The name feels foreign, hollow, detached from the person she is now. From the very start, Saxon builds a mood of catastrophic suspense. The hospital room feels like a place of healing and more like a prison. Every sound every sound seems amplified, every shadow suspicious suspicious Evie's body may be healing, but her mind is a battlefield between forgotten truth and rising fear. Rising fear. She feels watched, followed, and unsafe. Detectives arrive to investigate the crash, led by Detective Jess, a grounded, intelligent, and empathic, empathetic investigator who suspects that, that the incident was no accident. The car's brake lines were tampered with, suggesting foul play. But who would want Evie dead? And why? As Evie leaves the hospital to recover in a small cottage, fragments of memory begin to return in grief. Jarring flashes, a child's laughter, a man's angry voice, the sight of something terrible. Something terrible. that she cannot yet name. She begins to believe that she witnessed a crime before the crash. Her fear deepens as she realizes that not everyone around her can be trusted. Mark, the man claiming to be her husband, acts but controlling. Acts kind but controlling. Neighbor Neighbors whisper, strange notes appear on her doorstep. The police seem interested but cautious. The line between paranoia and reality blurs, leaving Evie to question whether she is losing her mind or if her memories are finally fighting their way back. As the novel unfolds, Evie unfragmented recollections becomes key to a hidden truth. Hidden truth. She uncovers evidence of betrayal, deceit, and manipulation. In the gripping climax, Evie must confront her past and choose between the safety of forgetting and danger of remembering. The conclusion is both shocking and redemptive. Evie not only uncovers the truth about what she witnessed, but also reclaims her identity. She transforms from victim to survivor, from lost to found. Character analysis. Evie, the fragmented self. Evie is the emotional and psychological core of the story. When we first meet her, she is a blank slate, a woman stripped of history, personality, and purpose. Yet, Sex and Skinny fully makes her compelling from the first page because she gives her one thing that transcends memory, emotion. We may not remember who she is, but she feels deeply. But she feels deeply. Fear, confusion, grief, and a desperate need to understand. As the story progresses, Detective Jess, the voice of logic. Detective Jess provides a necessary balance to Evie's psychological turmoil. Her chapters are written in a more grounded tone, offering structure and clarity to otherwise chaotic narrative. Jess is not merely a plot device, but a character of depth and empathy. Mark, the mask of deception. Mark's Evie's supposed husband is one of Saxon's most fascinatingly ambiguous characters. At first, he seems genuinely concerned, portraying himself as a loving partner desperate to help his wife recover, but subtle inconsistencies in his behavior, the controlling tone, the avoidance of certain topics, the flicker of guilt in his eyes reveal that all is not as it seems. Mark embodies the novel's motive of duplicity. People are not always what they appear. People are not always what they appear. His relationship with Evie becomes a metaphor for manipulation, dependence, and emotional control. Emotional control. By the end, he represents the danger of trusting appearances and the courage required to break free from psychological confinement. Themes and ideas. Memory as identity. At its core, what she saw is an inquiry into the nature of selfhood. Without memory, who are we? Are we defined by our past actions or by the choices we make in the present? Saxon Tech treats memory as both gift and curse, a source of identity, a source of identity, but also of suffering. Evie's amnesia initially shields her from unbearable pain, but as memories return, she realizes that knowledge, even painful knowledge, is necessary for freedom. Trauma and psychological healing. Evie's amnesia is not just a plot device but a manifestation of trauma. The mind's the mind's instinct to protect itself from pain becomes a double-edged sword. Saxon handles this with psychological realism, portraying the slow and painful process of recovery. Healing in this novel is not about forgetting what happened, it is about confronting it. Truth lies at the cost of knowledge. Throughout the story, Saxon plays tension between truth and illusion. Every character hides something, and every revelation leads to deeper uncertainty. The truth is, what she saw is not a single event but a labyrinth. Each discovery leads to another secret. The novel asks whether knowing the truth is always worth the price. Power, control, and manipulation. The dynamics of control. The dynamics of control between husband and wife, victim and perpetrator. Perpetrator, mind, and memory form the backbone of the novel. Backbone of the novel. Saxon's portrayal of psychological manipulation is chillingly realistic. Through subtle gestures and emotional caution, she shows how power operates quietly, invisibly, and destructively. The female perspective. Evie's journey is deeply feminist in nature. It is about reclaiming agency in a world that seeks silence her. Her struggle is not just for survival, but for voice, for the right to define her own truth. Saxon's portrayal of women's resilience under psychological duress is both empathetic and empowering. Conclusion. Seeing, knowing, becoming. In What She Saw, Tiani Saxon delivers a powerful story that transcends genre boundaries. It is at once a gripping mystery, a psychological study, and an emotional journey of rediscovery. Through Evie's ordeal, Saxon shows that truth, no matter how painful, is worth facing. Because only through truth can we reclaim ourselves. The novel lingers long after the final page, not because of its twists alone, but because of its humanity. It leaves readers asking, what do we choose to see and what do we choose to forget? In the end, what Evie saw was not only a crime but a reflection of the courage. Reflection of the courage it takes to confront darkness and step back into the light. What She Saw is an unforgettable novel, poignant, suspenseful, and deeply moving. Tiani Saxon proves herself a master storytelling with a rare gift for blending psychological depth with emotional authenticity. For anyone who loves intelligent thrillers that touch the soul, this book is a must read. So the next book which we're going to see today in this video is The House We Grew Up In by Lisa Jewell. Introduction. When memory becomes a prison. Lisa Jewell's The House We Grew Up In is not merely a novel about a family, it is an intricate psychological tapestry of love, grief, loss, and the fragile architecture of human connection. Set in the idyllic English coast worlds, the story dissects the bird family who once embodied warmth and togetherness, but whose unity shatters under the slow pressure of unspoken pain and resolved trauma. In this poignant narrative, Jewell examines how a single event can redefine an entire family's trajectory. How memory can both comfort and destroy. And how the homes we grow up in, both physical and emotional, shape the people we become. Her exploration of hoarding, grief, mental illness, and intergenerational trauma turns what could have been a domestic tale into a profound psychological loss study of loss and healing through alternating timelines and multiple perspectives. Jewell delivers a multi-layered meditation on how families fracture, how they find their way back to each other, and what truly means to come home. Plot summary: the Bird family and the echoes of a shattered past. At the heart of the story lies Lorelei Bird, a mother of four who radiates energy, warmth of eccentricity. Her house in the court's world bursts with color, life, and affection. Every Easter, she stages elaborate egg hunts that become the family's happiest tradition. A symbol of innocence, playfulness, and unity. Lorelei's husband Colin is steady, but emotionally distant. The quiet observer to Lorelei's flamboyance, their four children Megan, Beth, and twins Rory and Rice each embody different fragments of the Bird family's complexion. Shatters the family harmony. The once vibrant home turns into a mausoleum of memories. And Lorelei's eccentric habit of collecting mementos morphs into all-consuming compulsion. Years pass, the children grow up and scatter, each escaping the house and their mother's suffocating attachment to the past. Lorelei remains behind, lost in a labyrinth of clutter and nostalgia, clinging to fragments of what was. When Lorelei dies unexpectedly, her children and Colin returns to the family home. They find the house unrecognizable, filled floor to ceiling and possessions, forgotten relics, and decaying reminders of the life they once lived. They once lived in. As they attempt to clean and settle her affairs, the siblings confront not only their mother's hoarding but also their own buried pain, guilt, and unresolved love. The house as a living symbol. Few novels use setting as powerfully as the house we grew up in. The word family home is not merely a backdrop, it is a living, breathing reflection of the family's psychological state. In its early years, the house burst with vitality, the smell of baking breads, the laughter of children, and the chaos of family. Every wall and corner feels alive, infused with the spirit of Lorelei's love. But as the years progress and grief fosters, the house begins to decay. Rooms become cluttered, windows grow dusty, and piles of forgotten items begins to close in like emotional walls. The hoarded objects, old toys, papers, wrappers, and trinkets, serves as metaphors for emotional stagnation. Each item represents a memory Lorelei refuses to release, a piece of her lost family she cannot bury. The physical clutter mirrors her internal chaos, her refusal to confront trauma, her denial of time's passage, and her obsessive attempt to preserve what once was. For the children, returning to this house is like walking back into their subconscious. The mess becomes symbolic of what they must confront: the grief, resentment, and love buried under ice. Buried under years of silence, in the process of clearing out their mother's home, they begin the process of clearing out their own pain. Character analysis, layers of love and loss. Lorelei Bird, the fragile heart. Lorelei is the gravitational center of the story, a character of deep contradictions. At first glance, she is the quintessential nurturing mother, effervescent, imaginative, and devoted to her family. She believes in happiness, beauty, and the preservation of joy. But after tragedy strikes, her optimism becomes delusion. Becomes delusion. Her descent into hoarding is gradual and heartbreaking. What begins as sentimentally the inability to throw away her children's drawing or old toys. Old toys slowly transforms into a coping mechanism. Lorelei's need to hold on to physical objects is her desperate attempt to hold on to the family she lost. Megan, Mike Bird, the responsible one. Meg is the eldest child, the organizer, the caretaker, the one who grows up too fast. As a child, she resents Lorelei's whimsical parenting, caring structure, and control. As an adult, she builds a life of order and predictability, yet beneath her efficiency lies unhealed pain. Meg's relationship with Lorelei is fraught with tension. She sees her mother's eccentricity as responsibility, and she carries the weight of guilt for not being able to save her family from unraveling. Meg becomes the emotional anchor, but she must learn that control can substitute for connection. Bethan, the dreamer and the mirror. Beth is the sensitive, artistic child the one who feels everything deeply but lacks Meg's resilience. She idolizes her mother but also inherits her emotional fragility, but struggles with identity and intimacy, often defining herself through others' expectations. Rory and Rice, twins, embodies innocence and tragedy. Ree's introspective and sensitive struggle with his sexual identity and feelings of isolation. The relationship between the twins is one of the most poignant threads in the story. Colin Bird, the father, is the kind of but emotionally unavailable. He loves his family deeply but lacks the courage to intervene as things fall apart. He is a man who retreats from conflict, and his passivity becomes one of the family's silent wounds. Conclusion: healing the rooms of the heart. The House We Grew Up is in a quiet masterpiece, a novel that speaks softly but leaves an echo that lingers long after closing the book. Lisa Jewell's portrayal of the Bird family transcends domestic fiction. It becomes a meditation on what it means to love, to lose, and to rebuild. Through delicate storytelling and deep psychological insight, Jewell reminds us that even when love is buried under layers of pain and memory, it endures. Healing, like decluttering a house, is slow and imperfect, but possible. Ultimately, the house we grew up in, the house we grew up in, is a celebration of human resilience, of people who break, fall apart, and still find their way back to each other. It teaches us that home is not merely a place, it is the act of forgiving, remembering, and finally letting go. So, the third book and the last one which we're going to see today in this video is Crucified by Linda LaPlante. Introduction: a veteran of crime returns. Linda LaPlante has spent decades shaping the modern British crime novel, from prime suspects to the Tension and Jack War series. Her work combines procedural precision with the human cost of policing. The novel opens not with sirens and blood, but with silence. A detective trapped in his own head. It is this psychological quiet before the storm that Crucified apart from formulaic thrillers. The case becomes a mirror reflecting Jack's deteriorating inner world, making this perhaps LaPlante's most personal and introspective crime novel yet. Context within the series. When we meet Detective Jack Warr, he is no longer the eager, somewhat naive officer of Buried. The years of confronting killers, political corruption, and moral rot have left him scared. In pure evil, he encountered the monstrous Rodney Middleton, a case that broke something fundamental inside him. Crucified begins months later with Jack haunted by that aftermath. Plante intentionally slows the tempo at the start rather than launching directly into the new crime. She situates Jack inside the post-traumatic fog familiar to many long serving detectives. Refuses counseling offered by the Met, insists he is fine, and tries to maintain the facade of normal family life with family with Maggie and their young daughter. But readers quickly sense he is living on borrowed emotional credit. Plot overview: the crime and the calling. The tranquility of Jack's fragile recovery is shattered when a body is discovered in an art framer's workshop. A man nailed to a massive wooden cross, posed deliberately, hands pierced, head bowed. It is an image designed to shock not just the investigation. Jax feels magnetically drawn to it. His superior DI Armani wants him to stay clear, yet the symbolism of the murder, the literal crucifixion, resonates with Jack's own sense of punishment and penance. When he learns that the victim may be linked to Adam Border, a gifted yet morally ambiguous art forger whom Jack encountered years earlier, personal history collides with professional duty. Themes and motives: crucifixion and redemption. The title is not metaphor alone. Every major character endures symbolic crucifixion: Jack on the cross of guilt, Maggie on that of loneliness, Border on that of exposure. The literal crime scenes become visual sermons on suffering and atonement. LaPlante asks whether justice itself might be a form of crucifixion, sacrificing the individual of for society's peace of mind. Faith versus forensics. Religion pervades the imagery, yet belief here is secularized. Faith in procedure, in reason, in the badge. The killer's staging mocks his faith, forcing investigators to confront moral questions science can't answer. Each autopsy reads like a Each autopsy reads like an act of dissertation and revelation combined. Trauma and silence. LaPlante portrays trauma not through melodrama but absence. Unspoken conversations, unfinished texts, the sound of a child's toy echoing in another room. The novel insists that silence can be more violent than screams. Appearance and authenticity. The art forgery subplot operates operates as a structural metaphor. Every character is performing. Jack performing recovery, Maggie performing patience, the police performing order. The forged painting and the crucified bodies both ask what is real and what is an imitation we agree to believe. Narrative structure and pacing. Crucified unfolds in three movements: disorientation, the slow psychological setup, focusing on Jack's fragility and domestic tension. Investigation, the crucifixion murder, introduction of Adam Border and forensic groundwork. Revelation, moral reckoning, identity exposure, and partial healing. The first act's deliberate pacing mirrors depression, inertia. Readers who crave instant action may chafe at it, yet thematically thematically it's essential. When violence finally erupts, it feels earned, almost cathartic. Neplante alternates tight, dialogue driven scenes with expansive internal narration. Her prose is deceptively plain, short sentences, unadorned verbs, but accumulates emotional density. The London settings, from sterile police offices to rain smeared streets, create a noir atmosphere that feels cinematic yet authentic. Conclusion, the weight of the cross. Crucified is at once a gripping procedural, a study of trauma, and a moral allegory. It showcases Laplante's enduring ability to evolve within her genre, giving readers suspense while demanding empathy. Jack War emerges battered but unbroken. A man who understands that redemption isn't bestowed by church or through the slow of converting oneself. The final image of dawn breaking over a rain-washed London suggests renewal, yet the shadows remain. For a long time, followers of Linda Laplante crucified feels like both continuation and reckoning. The detective novel raced quite literally onto its own cross of conscience. So this is all we have from these three of the books. I hope you guys like the story, like the thrilling and mystical stories. If you did, don't forget to press the like button. And if you wanted to suggest any other books for a review, you can tell me in the comment section. I'll be back with another videos with another books to make a review on. Till then, just take care and goodbye.